Did Buckingham Palace or Prince William set a trap for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, and were
The atmosphere around Buckingham Palace has shifted again, and the public is buzzing with new speculation about Prince Harry, Meghan, and the wider royal family. Every time the spotlight returns, it feels like another chapter in a story that never seems to settle. People online have debated everything from family dynamics, to traditions, to why certain details about the Sussex family are kept private. And even though most of these discussions are fueled by social media rather than facts, the curiosity never stops. In recent days, the talk has become louder, with commentators wondering whether the palace and the Sussexes are once again moving through a quiet game of strategy, each side trying to control the narrative while avoiding unnecessary drama. None of this is confirmed, of course, but rumors have always traveled faster than official statements, especially when the story involves royalty. Meghan and Harry continue to be followed by a storm of online theories, many of them exaggerated or entirely invented, but the interest remains intense. Part of the renewed attention comes from the way Meghan and Harry choose to share moments of their life. Every time they release a family photo or make a public appearance with their children, the conversation ignites again. Some viewers praise the privacy, while others analyze every detail as if it were part of a mystery. The palace itself rarely comments on these discussions, which only encourages more speculation. Without clear answers, people fill the gaps with their own guesses. Inside royal circles, traditions are taken seriously. Births, ceremonies, and family events are recorded with great care because they're part of a larger historical system. When Harry and Meghan took a more private approach to their family life, it challenged expectations about how royal parents usually share these moments with the world. Not because anything was wrong, but because it was different, and difference always attracts attention. Some royal watchers found it refreshing, while others found it unusual. That contrast alone was enough to keep the rumor mill turning. Whenever any document, photo, or announcement looks even slightly out of the ordinary, the online world reacts instantly. People start asking why certain traditions weren't followed, or why specific details weren't made public like they were for past royal generations. These questions don't prove anything, but they do reveal just how closely the public watches every move. The palace, meanwhile, tends to focus on consistency and calm, avoiding responses that would add fuel to the conversation. Every royal child, whether living in the UK or abroad, becomes part of a much bigger story. And that means every milestone is analysed far more intensely than in any ordinary family. When Harry and Meghan welcomed their children, the mix of celebration and global attention created a complicated balance between privacy and public expectation. They wanted to protect their family, while audiences around the world hoped for the familiar royal traditions they were used to. As photos were released over the years, some people noticed differences in lighting, angles, or composition, which sparked endless debates online. Experts and everyday viewers dissected each image, sometimes forgetting that families evolve, children grow, and styles change. In reality, photography choices say more about personal preference than about anything deeper. But on social media, even the smallest detail can turn into a multi-day conversation. The heart of the tension is simple. The royal system depends on long-standing structure, while Harry and Meghan prefer independence and modern approaches. When those worlds meet, misunderstandings and rumors fill the space in between. The palace prioritizes rules, order, and tradition. Harry and Meghan prioritize privacy, creative control, and protecting their children from public exposure. Neither side is malicious. They just operate differently, and the public eagerly reads between lines that may not even exist. For Meghan and Harry, every public moment carries weight, not only personally but also professionally. Many of their projects rely on the interest people have in their journey from royal life to global media figures. That attention can be powerful, but it can also turn unpredictable when speculation overshadows facts. They know that public fascination is both an opportunity and a challenge, and each move is judged instantly on a global scale. On the palace side, silence remains the most effective strategy. The institution has survived centuries by staying steady, speaking rarely, and letting time settle the noise around it. Public conversations rise and fade, but the monarchy moves forward quietly, following processes that have been in place longer than any modern platform or trending topic. In the end, this entire situation shows how powerful public perception can be. With real information limited, assumptions fill the space, creating narratives that feel dramatic even when the truth is much simpler. People want to believe there is a larger story unfolding behind royal doors, because the mystery is part of the fascination. But much of what circulates online is just interpretation, not confirmed reality. Harry and Meghan continue building their life in a new way, while the palace continues preserving tradition in its own. The world watches both sides with endless curiosity, reading meaning into every movement, every photo, every interview, whether or not a deeper meaning is truly there. And as long as that curiosity exists, the conversation will continue, weaving new rumors into old ones and keeping the royal story alive for another day. The conversation surrounding the royal family has begun shifting again, not because of any official announcement or confirmed internal movement, but because public curiosity has reached a level where even the smallest detail feels like a clue. The royal world doesn't need dramatic events to create tension. Sometimes a pause, a quiet moment, or a subtle gesture does the job. And lately, that silence has felt louder than anything else. Observers have noticed that whenever there's a lull in official activity, the public imagination fills the space with its own interpretations. A simple photo, a remark made during an interview, or even a subtle change in tone can ignite discussions that stretch across social media like wildfire. That is the strange reality of being connected to a global monarchy. Every moment, no matter how mundane, gains meaning. And when Prince Harry and Meghan are involved, the intensity triples, partly because they represent a modern shift, and partly because so many people still feel invested in their story. In recent weeks, speculation has matured from surface-level debates into deeper questions about how the monarchy and the Sussexes navigate their unusual relationship. It isn't a simple family disagreement, nor is it a clear institutional conflict. It is something far more layered, shaped by cultural expectations, historical traditions, personal decisions, and the public's never-ending fascination. What makes this moment especially captivating is the possibility that both sides are recalibrating, quietly, purposefully, without saying a single word. The palace has always communicated through stillness. A quiet corridor, an unseen meeting, or a scheduled event that suddenly appears on the royal calendar often says more than any press release. Harry and Meghan, meanwhile, communicate through curated expression, interviews, personal projects, documentary-style storytelling, and selective glimpses into their California life. These two styles don't naturally align, and the gap between them becomes a source of constant discussion. Royal observers have begun to wonder whether a new chapter is forming behind the scenes, not necessarily dramatic or confrontational, but shifting nonetheless. When a royal household adjusts, it is rarely visible immediately. Small signals appear first, like changes in staffing, new public initiatives, or subtle shifts in tone during speeches. With Harry and Meghan, similar signals appear through their media ventures, public appearances, or the way they address their past experiences. None of this proves anything concrete, but the public has learned to study the atmosphere rather than the official statements, because the atmosphere rarely lies. Across online platforms, debates have intensified around how the monarchy approaches modern family structures, global publicity, and evolving public expectations. Some argue that the royal institution must adapt faster, while others believe tradition is its greatest strength. Harry and Meghan stand at the center of this conversation, whether they intend to or not. Their departure from active royal duties created a template that many modern viewers interpret as bold and necessary, while more traditional audiences view it as disruptive. Those perspectives collide constantly, forming a never-ending discussion about what the monarchy should look like in the 21st century. And yet, beneath all the speculation, there is a simple truth that rarely receives attention. Families, even royal ones, evolve. They shift, they adapt, they struggle, and they reconcile in ways that are often invisible to the outside world. The difference here is that every adjustment made by the royal family becomes global news, and every personal choice made by Harry and Meghan becomes content for analysis. The idea of privacy becomes complicated when even silence becomes a storyline. Much of the renewed curiosity started when people noticed a series of small moments where the palace seemed particularly reserved, almost as if waiting. At the same time, Harry and Meghan appeared more present in the media, sharing glimpses of their life and expanding their creative ventures. This contrast created a new spark. Some viewers interpreted the palace's quiet approach as strategic, while others believed it signaled an internal recalibration. Meanwhile, Harry and Meghan's visibility prompted fresh discussions about how they balance personal expression with public attention. None of this points to conflict. Rather, it highlights how delicate the connection between tradition and modernity has become. A monarchy built on ceremony and heritage must coexist with a global culture that thrives on storytelling, openness, and direct communication. Harry and Meghan straddle that line, and their choices continue to influence how the public interprets both sides. One of the biggest drivers of speculation involves how the Sussexes manage their family's privacy. Their children, rarely seen in public, have become the subject of intense curiosity, not because of any wrongdoing but because the contrast with older royal generations is striking. When past royal children were born, it was common for the public to see official photos taken shortly after the event. These moments created a sense of connection between the monarchy and the public. But Harry and Meghan moved away from that tradition, choosing to shield their children from the spotlight. Many celebrated that choice, seeing it as an effort to protect their well-being. Others found it unusual, not in a suspicious way but in a surprising one, simply because it represented such a departure from what people had come to expect. Social media amplified the contrast. Every time a holiday card appeared, viewers examined lighting, composition, angles, and expressions. These analyses were rarely malicious. More often, they were the result of genuine curiosity. People wanted to understand the Sussexes' world and the choices they made. But in the age of digital speculation, even harmless analysis can spin into something much bigger. The palace observed this shift from afar, choosing not to intervene, as it often does, allowing the public to discuss freely without adding commentary that might escalate the situation. Those close to royal circles quietly acknowledge that the biggest challenge in this era is managing public interpretation. The monarchy has always relied on carefully orchestrated presentation, but the internet has shattered traditional boundaries. It is no longer possible to control how information spreads or how it is analyzed. This is why silence has become the palace's strongest tool. By avoiding direct engagement, they prevent minor discussions from turning into national debates. At the same time, this silence leaves space for new narratives to form, sometimes grounded, sometimes speculative. Harry and Meghan face an opposite challenge. Their platform relies on storytelling, openness, and emotional connection. The public watches them not just as former senior royals, but as individuals navigating a highly unusual life. When they share their experiences, audiences listen closely. But every word becomes a reference point for future debate, which means their communication must be balanced carefully. Too little sharing leads to speculation. Too much sharing invites criticism. The line between privacy and publicity is thinner for them than for nearly any other public figure. Rumors gained new energy when commentators noted how both sides seemed unusually strategic in their timing. A palace event announced shortly after a Sussex appearance. A Sussex project released soon after a palace update. These sequences may have been coincidence, but in the world of royal observation, coincidence often becomes part of the mythos. Viewers interpreted these moments in symbolic ways, believing one side was responding to the other, even when nothing official indicated such a connection. This is the nature of public fascination. Meaning is created even where none is intended. The deeper layer to all this is the emotional thread running beneath the surface. Many people still hope for reconciliation within the royal family, imagining a future where Harry, Meghan, William, and the wider family reconnect in a meaningful way. The idea of family unity, even within a complex institution, holds a strong appeal. That hope fuels much of the speculation, because every small gesture becomes a sign of what could happen next. A shared smile at an event, a familiar phrase in an interview, or even a simple acknowledgement from a spokesperson can spark waves of optimism or disappointment. Others focus less on personal relationships and more on the broader cultural implications. They see the Sussexes as representatives of generational change, challenging long-standing norms and redefining what it means to be connected to a monarchy without being bound by it. This perspective adds a philosophical dimension to the conversation, turning family dynamics into a discussion about tradition versus evolution. As the public continues debating these themes, something larger is unfolding quietly behind the scenes. The royal family, like any institution, evaluates itself periodically. It considers how the world is changing, how public expectations are shifting, and how its members can adapt while preserving stability. These assessments are not dramatic, nor are they evidence of conflict. They are the natural processes of an enduring institution learning to exist in a digital age. Harry and Meghan are also evolving privately. Their life in California is not simply a retreat from royal responsibilities. It is a new phase with its own challenges, achievements, and complexities. They are raising children, developing creative projects, forming partnerships, and building their future with a sense of independence that has become central to their identity. Their story is no longer just about what they left, it is about what they are creating.